Alright, the Justice League has united, so let's talk about spoilers. This is a spoilers review. I have a spoilers-free review on my channel for those of you who haven't seen Justice League, or if you don't care about spoilers, welcome, let's discuss. So in the first act, there's not really much to talk about. There's an awesome introduction scene to Batman showcasing where he is psychologically and his mission ongoing at that very moment, where he captures the guy from Mindhunter and he lures the Parademon with it, and then the Parademon conveniently leaves a graffiti on the wall showcasing the mark of the mother boxes. We have an awesome scene with Wonder Woman where she stops Bruce Bolton from killing some folks at the bank, and she showcases her speed, which I thought it was weird because he could come back, but then he would deter from the Flash's speed, but then it doesn't really come back, and that might be an issue to some, but I actually thought it was a non-issue that they didn't bring that up back again. It was an awesome action sequence, just like Batman's, even though Batman just leaves that criminal on the roof. Thought was weird, but great introduction, bringing us back into the world of these two characters that we already love, because, as I said in my spoilers-free review, Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot shine in their performances in this film, as do their characters, because Wonder Woman and Batman, they steal the show. Then we get some unfortunately half-assed introductions to the rest of the characters. You can see that the Aquaman scene especially was very cut down. There are some cuts here and there where he's talking to Bruce Wayne inside with all the rest of the people, then they go outside and it's already done with the conversation. Then we have Barry Allen with his father, and it could have been a very heavily emotional scene, but instead it just feels like they're trying to get through it as quick as they can. And Cyborg, look, the CGI might deter from what could have been emotional as well. The problem I have with Cyborg is that he's just spouting out exposition, but it's not necessarily explaining anything about him. I know a Cyborg because I know of the comics. Even though I don't care much from the character, I won't care for him in this film very much either, because they're saying he has all these cool things about him because he's a robot now, but it's not really explaining anything. That's my biggest issue with the character. It's not until that first confrontation with Steppenwolf, once the whole league unites with Aquaman coming in at the end, stopping that wave of the Gotham Harbor into the Justice League, and when they get into that confrontation, you have this awesome moment between Batman and Barry Allen where the relationship father and son is really well established, where the Flash has never done this before. He has just shoved people and ran away very fast, and then once he saves Victor Stone's dad, he gets this feeling of, yeah, I saved someone, I can do this, I can help people with my gifts. And so he continues saving people while the rest of the league just go at Steppenwolf in awesome action. But before we move on, I gotta take a little bit back and talk about that backstory sequence with the Amazons, the Atlanteans, the humans, and the gods of Olympus. I laughed out loud when we see Zeus in that battle, and Zeus looks exactly like Leonidas from 300. Coincidentally, another Zack Snyder film. But I also love that we get the Green Lanterns. Clearly, that is Green Lantern Alan Scott. And then we get this alien Green Lantern. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be a specific character, but he looks like a mixture of Toma Ray with Kilowog, because he's very muscular like Kilowog, but he has the facial features of Toma Ray. I'm not sure, but I like the sequence in itself. It's epic in scope and it looks beautiful. The cinematography is fabulous throughout, but in these scenes specifically, it is tremendous. Though at one point Diana explains that Steppenwolf stepped away because he was going mad in the battle, and then when we get to how Steppenwolf is actually defeated in this film, we'll talk a little bit about how that doesn't make sense. But after that we get the League keeping the last mother box safe, the one that is with Cyborg, after Steppenwolf has gotten a hold of the mother box from the Atlanteans and the mother box from the Amazons. Both pretty fantastic action sequences, but then Steppenwolf is all like, "Mother, I am uniting you for the unity, blah blah blah." Look, again, I understand what he's talking about from the comics, but they never really explain anything. He's doing this because, yes, mother, all these things, and then he drops a "for Darkseid" tease. And then by the end of the post-credits sequence, you realize that they are not actually going with the Darkseid route, they're going with the Injustice League route. But the scene with the Justice Leaguers going into the Batcave and discussing how they're going to use the Mother Box and realizing they can use it to bring back Superman, it's very well done. It gives the characters a lot as a group, as a unity, and then it's very gratifying to see them at the end battle having these little double team-ups with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, Flash and Cyborg, and of course Batman and Superman. But we get real moments with all of them talking to each other, bickering here and there, discussing all these different colorful personalities, clashing clashing against each other because that's what would naturally happen. I love the scene where they go to resuscitate Superman and they need the Flash to use his powers. I love the sequence of the Flash running and everything else being very slow. I love all the scenes like that, especially one we'll talk about in a little bit. Because what's cool about it is seeing what is happening around them and how the world is moving. Though I gotta say, Ezra Miller really has a weird way of running because it looks like he's throwing stuff, but he's not ever throwing anything. I'm just going to keep doing this. Then they bring back Superman, and it's quite symbolic how he comes back to the place where his statue once stood, and he just goes nuts on the Justice League. I mean, you see Superman being Superman, and I love the moment where they're all holding him back. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, then Flash finally tries to do something, and you have this build of one shot of Superman, one shot of Flash. The close-up of Superman, and Superman starts to move and look towards the Flash, and the Flash is just like, oh shit. That moment is so well built, and it's such a great payoff, and Superman continues to kick ass. The moments where he's fighting in slow motion with the Flash and then he just bumps against him, but you see the power that he utilizes, and then he goes against Wonder Woman once more with the headbutts, and it's just brutal. And I love the moment where he picks up Batman and he's like, do you bleed? That moment is fantastic. It sent chills down my spine even the second time I watched the film. And Batman with this build-up of bringing in the big guns, and then it is Lois Lane. That is such a Batman thing to do. I love it. And Batman throughout this film, he's the Batman from the comics and from the Arkham games. He's got gadgets galore, man. He's got gadgets in pockets that don't exist. He's got everything covered. Contingency plans are brought up continuously, and I love this one scene where he's talking to Diana, and Diana just puts his shoulder back in place after they had the confrontation where Batman brings up Steve Trevor. That is an emotional beat that I felt, man. Just like Diana punching him in the chest, it was a punch in the gut for me, because the arcs of these two characters are so well realized throughout. The differences between them, the differences from the characters that we saw in Batman v Superman with Batman, the differences we saw with Diana in Wonder Woman the film. It's spectacular how they are utilized in this, and they have this little comment towards each other where Diana is like, you cannot do this forever, and Batman is like, I cannot do this right now. So good. At the same time, it's bad because you realize, oh yeah, Ben Affleck is having these things about wanting to leave, but then he doesn't want to leave. I don't know how to feel about that. But it's funny at the moment because it kind of feels meta. Couple references I forgot that appeared until now was how Alfred mentions that the world was simpler when they were fighting robotic penguins, and Batman was like, simpler times. Yeah, they were simpler times. And I also love how when Barry Allen is trying to dissuade Bruce Wayne from thinking he is a Flash, he's talking about his talents. Viola, he's talking about graphic design, and then sign language, and then gorilla sign language. Very, very good Easter egg drop. Henry Cavill as Superman. Again, Superman in this film, brilliant. Brilliant how they bring him back. Brilliant how he's utilized. How he's just so cheesy. He's utilizing that cheesiness that Superman naturally has engrossed into him. But they are self-aware about it, and I love that they are. There's this thing that happens after they fight Superman and he goes away with Lois Lane, where you see the mother box is on a police car. Then you see the boom tube coming down to inside the Kryptonian ship. Then that same boom tube quickly goes up and disappears, and Diana just says, he's got the mother box. How does he have the mother box? The mother box was here, we saw the boom tube here, then the boom tube goes up, and he's got the mother box. I guess. But then there's this one exchange between Aquaman and Bruce Wayne is like, oh, can you talk to Fish and ask them where the mother boxes and Steppenwolf are? And then he immediately has this doubt of, do you actually talk to Fish? And Aquaman is like, the water does the talking. And once he says that, I'm like, oh yeah, just like when we talk, air is what propagates the sound towards the other person. Yeah, that makes sense. That that is accurate science. They go into the final battle, and my main problem with the final battle is that we see this huge gigantic area being extremely affected, looking very much like Apocalypse should in a film, and yet we don't see any of that affecting Earth. There's no one reporting it. There's nothing about it on the news. There's no effect on Earth itself besides that little small area. And so you don't feel the gravity of this situation because you see no effect of it on regular people. Despite the fact that in the beginning of the film you see a very sophisticated, very well told visual story when the credits are going through of how the people, the world is affected by the disappearance of Superman. But that climatic battle goes on for as long as it can, and I love it for as long as it goes on. Aquaman surfing on the parademon through the air, through a building, and into the ground. And Wonder Woman just kicking all the ass she can. Barry Allen running to save that family from the car, even though that family stood in that house for the entirety of the film. And then they go to the car and you're like, if you have the car the whole time, just run away as soon as those things appear. Just go. Don't stay. Go. Steppenwolf is fighting with Wonder Woman, and Aquaman and Batman and the Flash are fighting the parademons, while Cyborg is infiltrating the mother boxes to stop the Unity. Superman comes in, and holy shit, it's once again brutality. He just kicks the fuck out of Steppenwolf. Punch, laser eyes, he throws him back at Wonder Woman and Aquaman. He goes and helps Cyborg. The League finally unites and they all have this one blow against Steppenwolf. Superman freeze breaths him, but he stops it with the axe. Of course, Wonder Woman has the final blow. It just makes sense because the Amazonians were the ones to lead that last battle 1,000 years ago in the Age of Heroes, and then they were the first ones to lose their mother boxes. It just makes symbolic sense, even because Wonder Woman is the most well-received film both critically and box office wise. But then Steppenwolf is like, oh, I'm afraid and the parademons are going to attack me now and that's why I'm going to lose. So that didn't happen in the last battle. And even if it did, it just seems like such a lame way to defeat or not defeat your villain. And I mean, I'm kind of glad he doesn't die. I'm just not happy with the way he doesn't die. It's the way he gets defeated, because he's not a good villain until then. He's a presence here and there. He's a foe when it comes to physical confrontation, but as a character, he's pretty thin, and I think saying he's pretty thin is giving him way too much layers. But I like how the League resolves the issue. They tear down the Unity, they have a quick back and forth, Superman and Cyborg want to be dead again. That is just a nice joke. Then you see this lineup, awesome, epic lineup of the Justice League, even though you see Batman being very much more muscular than Superman. You have Cyborg and the Flash fist bumping, and then Aquaman and Wonder Woman, the gods in this group, the true gods in this group, the ancient warriors that united here. And I love seeing those little team-ups because how much they give to the characters and how well thought they were. Though you see these plants growing throughout those things that were coming out of the mother box and the Unity, and it just reminded me of Moana, the ending where everything turns to beautiful plants. Then you have this narration by Lois Lane. I didn't think it was very appropriate because I would have done it with Diana, or even with Batman, or even with Superman. But the narration itself is beautiful, and I love how the Wayne Manor is going to become the Hall of Justice. That is just nice. Perfect touch right there. And you see this shot of Superman flying into the air. There is hope again. And this film symbolizes that. This film is a perfect representation of the excitement, the amazement, the awe feeling, sensation that you should get as you're watching a superhero film, as you're watching one of the most emblematic teams in all of comic book history coming together. And overall, the good outweighs the bad for me. And that's why I like Justice League. I like how the characters are done here. I like their interactions. I like their arcs in here, whichever arcs there are, and I love the prospect that we get for the future. In here, I love the prospect for the future right now for DC. And look, we cannot say goodbye without talking about those post-credit scenes, because the first one is just giddy. It's just for comic book lovers who know this classic running joke, let's say, with the Flash running against Superman, seeing who's faster, and just that final shot of them standing still as they're going on the race. It's just fantastic. Again, it's the interaction of the characters that you see throughout the movie and the gratifying satisfaction that you get from knowing them through the comic books, and seeing that moment in film. It's just a tip of the hat simple, yet so meaningful for comic book fans. And the last one, I screamed. I screamed both times that I saw this film. As soon as you see those little tapes at the back of the head, Deathstroke. Wow, my god, Deathstroke is here. He goes and meets Lex Luthor in his yacht, and you can see that Jesse Eisenberg changed a little bit of his performance. He's much more smooth now as he's talking like Lex Luthor would, and he seems much more natural into the role, and I think he now will bother less people, even though I personally like this Lex Luthor interpretation in Batman v Superman. But as you see Deathstroke removing the helmet, they dyed Joe Manganiello's hair and goatee white. It's so awesome. My god, such a great moment. Didn't think it would be that white, more grayish like you see Manu Bennett in Arrow, but that's just an observation, not really something that is bothering to me. But those are all my very scrambled thoughts on Justice League. What did you think about it, my beautiful geekies? Thank you so much for watching once more. Let's discuss in the comments all that you thought of Justice League that I mentioned, that I forgot to mention. Anything you want to talk about, let's talk about it in a very civilized manner. We are all fans. We should all love the fact that we are fans, and we should love discussing this with each other, making new friendships, meeting new people. It's all very excited, just like the fact that we get a Justice League movies with flaws or not. Once more, thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow I'll have reviews for The Punisher, Coco, Mudbound, and Last Flag Flying. And so until then, you stay beautiful, you stay geeky, and if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and the bell so we can be geeky united!